Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today we are finishing up Silent Hill 2 Remake. We played it. We played the first half in our last show. Today we are finishing it up from the Otherworld Silent Hill through the end of the game, which I don't think is a spoiler if you've played Silent Hill 2 about 20 years ago. So, some stuff happens. If you want to hear the early part and some of our impressions of the overall systems and just the remake in general and the controls, those sorts of things, part 1 is available. But here, we're going through to the end of the game. So I am joined, as always, by Pete Busby. How you doing, Pete?
Doing good. Excited to talk about the second half of Silent Hill, which I think I like better than the first half. I don't know if that's a controversial opinion or not. I'm sure we'll find out. But things do get heavy in the second half, so I have a light, breezy fun fact for y'all this week. So if you're ever eating potato chips, and you see one that's turned a little green, first off, totally safe to eat. Don't worry about that. The reason some potato chips turn green is if potatoes are exposed to sunlight, sort of prior or during their harvest, and they start to develop chlorophyll, and that just leads to the green in potato chips.
I always assumed it was like a underripe potato.
Oh.
But that makes more sense.
That's cool. I really thought it was just this potato chip has been befouled somehow. So I avoided those potato chips. So thank you for clearing that up for me.
Yeah.
Guilt-free. And that other voice you heard is the internet's expert of Silent Hill, one Jess O'Brien. How you doing, Jess?
Oh, shucks. I'm doing pretty fucking good. Turns out I liked this the whole way through, so I'm thrilled to be wrong about my initial misgivings of the entire endeavor. It rules to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Bloober Team, we're sorry we doubted you. You gave us a lot of reasons to, though. You got to admit that. Come on.
I'm not that sorry.
But yeah. So, Jess, where could people find you on the internet if they wanted to see your other stuff?
Oh, I'm VoidBurger on pretty much everything that matters. Your Twitch, your YouTubes, your Blue Skies, decreasingly so Twitter, because that place is a ghost town all of a sudden. Hell fucking yeah, get out of there, guys.
Yeah.
Rules. And I'm also on the podcast and make the podcast, Skull Tenders. Check it out.
Excellent. The plugs for our show, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter. I'm going to delete that soon. I'll make a Blue Sky.
Nice.
You can also get in touch with the show, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections. And then deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. That is where you could send an email if you wanted to get in touch with the show. And then you can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. We just hit our 40 patron goal, so we're playing Mass Effect Andromeda now.
Wait, not Rogue. Yeah, I forgot.
Uh-oh. Pete, did you start that yet?
No.
Okay, I started it, and everything's wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a reason why it's on the list of games that we play, because they suck, but boy, I wasn't prepared for how. Everything's just wrong. Just subtly wrong. It's like someone watched a recording of a real video game and then tried to reproduce it from scratch. I don't know.
Ooh.
It's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, it really has a feel of like someone who knew the concepts of a modern video game but didn't have the time or execution to make it happen. So we'll see. I'm not that far in. And if you subscribe to the Patreon, you obviously get access to our Discord. If you sign up for the OG Soncast tier, you get access to the new anime podcast that Pete is on. Berserk coming soon. Correct, Pete?
That is correct.
Excellent. And then you'd be supporting us, and that'd be very cool of you. All right. Without further ado, let's discuss Silent Hill 2 Remake. So where we left off was the hospital. We are in Otherworld Silent Hill. But before we like jump right back into the story, how is everyone feeling like having played through the end of the game? Like, how are the vibes? Vibes high?
Yeah. I got a spring in my step. I feel light. I feel like a burden's been lifted from me. It's absurd. I'm in a great fucking mood.
That's awesome. Yeah, that I finished the game. I got till the end a couple of weeks ago, and then I finished it 2 days ago. And vibes are
Big
high.
gap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to take a gap between the labyrinth and the hotel, and then the finale. But it was vibes were high. Like I
Yeah.
think they landed the plane. So like big impressions here. I think they largely landed the plane. So if you had any trepidations and you don't want spoilers and you just want the big picture, this is probably the version of Silent Hill 2 to play, right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
for
At this
sure.
point.
Actually, it's also just very funny that we're all like vibes are high. I'm feeling great because this is like one of the most quintessential bummer games like ever made.
Oh,
But they landed
100%.
they landed it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, this wife guy got what he had coming to him. And we love it.
I'll
Um,
teach you to be a wife guy.
yeah. So yeah, hopping back in where we were, Eastern Southvale, Otherworld. Since it's the Otherworld, it's nighttime. The rain is still persisting, which, as I mentioned in the previous show, like the rumble, the dynamic rumble on the PS5 controller, super cool in this section. It definitely pops. Did you notice it more, or did it happen on the PC version, Jess? Did you?
I am playing the PS5 version.
Okay.
But like through my computer monitors. But yes, I noticed it this time because you pointed it out last time.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely subtle, but it's cool every time there's rain that they do that.
I also really enjoyed it was especially prevalent in this Otherworld section, how much more of it felt like Silent Hill 1's Otherworld when you're outside on the streets, where it's a lot more like rusty scaffolding and like weird metal infrastructure making up the streets and stuff like that, and like these big gaps with all this overhanging, rusted through, really unsturdy looking metal. I was
Mhm.
like, ooh, they're taking like a little cue from Silent Hill 1. This fucking rules. I love it.
Yeah, and I also enjoyed that this other world when you're out there. I don't remember if this was the case in the original game, but some of the cars and things that whose windows you break, obviously that doesn't exist in the original, but like some of the actions you took in the previous version of the regular version of Silent Hill, they persist into the other world. So like cars you've broken into are still broken. Places that you've gone and like there's a few like treasure chesty things where if you do like a little side quest, you can get objects to open stuff. And if you go back, those things are still taken. Or if you didn't do it the first time, you can go back and finish it in the other world,
Thank
which
God.
I thought was cool. Yeah,
Imagine if it like all got reset and how much like more game padding that would be to like be compelled to re-find all this ammo and stuff like that.
100%. And I appreciated it. I like that there was that consistency of the space. Um, yeah, Pete, what did you think of going into an outdoor space with the other world treatment?
I mean, I'm always happy to get out of like the dank interior, can't see anything spaces. Like it's jumping ahead here, but I love the island sequence, if only because there's finally sunlight.
That's definitely fair. And I think that one thing that's kind of interesting is even though it's not claustrophobic anymore when you're outside in the other world, it's so dark, and the flashlight here is it's good, but it's not like an incredible flashlight. If you are not walking towards some third source of light, like a street lamp or a car that has its headlights on, it's pretty spooky. It's hard to see where you're going at times.
Yeah. I like how, and I might have mentioned this last time we talked about the first chunk of this game, but I appreciate a lot how Silent Hill 2 and the original also played with like claustrophobia and agoraphobia. They'd put you in these tiny spaces and then they put you in these huge spaces that's like, oh, this should not be this big. I'm nervous to be in a space this big all of a sudden.
Yeah, it is very cool, and you definitely feel that when you're in the Otherworld part of Silent Hill, because all of a sudden there's mannequins everywhere. There's stuff. There are sounds constantly on top of the rain, and the rain kind of muffles the external groans and writhes and squelches that are normally happening. So it's like, where are these enemies? I hear something, but I also hear this constant patter of rain and the footprints and
Mhm.
footsteps on metal. So all of a sudden, the sound profile gets really busy, and so you just feel like you're surrounded an
Mhm.
awful lot. And
Like it's
in
really like
this,
it's so interesting to be like in these smaller spaces where like the confines, the parameters, it's like you can see how close the walls are to you and you feel so trapped. And then you go into these wide open spaces and you don't know where the limitations are, how far away this goes, and that's like a totally different I'm uncomfortable sort of thing, and the soundscape comes with that as well, where it's like the mystery of what is out there or not is just like oh, they just sound designed this so goddamn well. It's ridiculous.
it did. It's overwhelming. It's oppressive, and it's really good. Again, if we said this in episode one, but headphones, I think, are
Hmm.
really useful for this game. I think it does this game good, like real justice if you've got a nice set of headphones. Um, So you're running through Eastern South Vale, Western South Vale, and you're heading towards the Silent Hill Historical Society. Um, I went when I went to Western South Vale again. This was the time I went to the bowling alley and went to some of the things on Nathan Street.
Hmm.
So I assume my experience was probably a little bit different than if you have Maria there. Um, I was able to get the car jack that you can get to open up.
Oh, this is one. Okay.
So I got the car jack the first time, but I didn't find the place to use it.
Oh, right.
So when I got it the first time, I got ambushed, and there were so many monsters at that point. I bailed, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
when I stopped investigating Nathan Avenue. But then at night, I'm like, well, monsters are already here. It's already shitty.
Mhm.
Let me go try to find where to use the car jack.
I
And
like that.
that
Like during this part when you're outside, and you're going to the historical society. They, Bloober team, like kind of added a little bit more. Like they sort of rearranged like how you come to the conclusion that you're going to the historical society and how you get the items to attain that goal. And I think they did it in a really like pretty natural way that kept like the momentum up. They did a whole bunch of little things where they I didn't realize until playing this version how like video gamey the original is in certain ways where it's just like, "Oh, I guess I'm going here now because it's a video game." Like I have to
Mhm.
go to next area because it's a video game. And like James didn't have very compelling reasons to go to these places a lot of the times, so it kind of felt like you're wandering until something happened at you. But like they changed like like certain little things here and there to like give James momentum and motivation to go to these places. And I like that they what they did with this sequence because they've kind of made this mysterious note lever. They've kind of semi confirmed that it is like a doctor or the hospital director from Brookhaven that has left these messages for James. Uh, and that like also comes through in like very very later in the hotel. There's like another message left by that guy, and it's like whoa, like they tied this all together in a different little arrangement that feels like it's a lot more like purposeful. You know, they did a really good
Yeah,
job with that.
yeah, they did. And I think having those kind of guiding lights to kind of remind you that I guess it hints that something's going on here, right? Like James is not just trapped in a place. Someone is talking to these notes that he's just finding seem to be for him, and
Mhm.
they are guiding him in a certain direction, and they are implying what maybe got him stuck here in the first place.
Speaking
Um, yeah,
speaking
go
of
ahead.
the hospital director, is the historical society where we see his portrait?
Yes.
I'd
I
just
think it
like to
might have
point
been the
out,
original hospital director. I don't know if it was the
hmm,
one that's leading you around. There might have been a previous one that
okay,
is a portrait of that guy, but yeah, that's where that portrait is.
just to point out, he is a groovy dude.
He is groovy, isn't
Mustache,
he?
long sideburns. My man's groovy.
I love how much how accurately they recreated so many of the like textures and also like paintings and portraits and images that you see along the way. I'll talk more about this later in the prison. They did a lot of great jobs with that sort of stuff too. But oof, good shit.
Can I ask too, while we have our resident Silent Hill expert on the podcast.
Our evil resident of Silent Hill. Yes.
Why is the prison below the historical society?
Because it's spooky. I don't-
Okay, I mean, it's a good enough reason as any.
I don't think it's literal. Like, I think there
Mm,
was a prison there at some point in time. I don't think it is literally there anymore. And like the fact of the matter is that you don't only go underground to a space that doesn't make any sense, but you keep descending.
right.
Oh, you never rise at all, go up any stairs at any point, and you end up ground level at the end of it all. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, so it's just one of those like non-Euclidean
Mm.
areas of Silent Hill. It rules.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely a metaphor here as like James unpacks
Aw.
his psyche and descends.
Hmm.
I get metaphor.
The prison of his mind, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing before we get to the prison is you have your first encounter with the mandarins in this
Oh,
outdoor section, which are man, they're under grates or like is it great? Like is it a chain link fence that's below you somehow?
Something.
It's messed up, whatever it is, and they are these large walking monsters that are underneath you, and they will bellow and they will shoot like a weird messed up tongue or tentacle at you. And can you even attack them?
yeah. They're very difficult, but you can beat them. I did not beat any of them, but my spouse assured me it's possible. He's better at video games than me. All I succeeded in doing was getting my ass kicked pretty bad and shooting them not fast enough to fully unhook them from underneath because they're basically doing like a monkey bars situation. So if you shoot them like at the point of contact, you can make them drop one of their hands off and shoot the other one fast enough, then they just fall down and I guess die.
Oh,
But yeah, they're very, very difficult to deal with. And they got such a huge glow up in this game. Like they were super underutilized in the original game. Uh, they only show up twice ever in the original game, if I'm not mistaken. And they were so underutilized that I believe that was a major reason why they basically reused the model in Silent Hill 3 to make the closers.
okay. So they were like, no one even saw these before, so
Basically,
let's
yeah. Like,
still a good
let's throw
monster
these guys in
design.
here. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in this game, they are actually a threat, which was something I wasn't used to.
Yeah.
Because in the original Silent Hill 2, if you just run past them, they will not catch up to you. I've never been attacked by them in the original game. In this one, they use them more later in the labyrinth. But when you first see them, it is possible to get attacked. It is possible to get hurt by them, especially if you're not hugging the walls when you're running through the like big tunnel where you first
You really
encounter them.
gotta listen for their audio tells. I noticed this about like a lot of the monsters because of like you having control over the camera. You're probably gonna be running away from them, so they're gonna be behind you.
Mhm.
And these guys have quite a range on them with that like tongue lash attack that they have. So you really have to listen for the tell of them about to do that to successfully dodge it because it has incredible range. It will probably still get you when you're running away. These guys were really formidable to deal with.
And very accurate tongues. They're very
Mhm.
good kissers. They can reach. If you if you dodge, they will still get you if you're not in your iframes. It's impressive.
Is accuracy something you struggle with in your kissing, Gino? I feel like accuracy is not my primary concern.
Uh, no comment.
You started it.
No comment. You're telling me tongue accuracy is not the number one thing with kissing? That's not the most important thing?
I'm willing to admit I've
imagining
been
this.
kissing wrong for 33
Imagining
years,
like
but I don't
the
think so.
fucking. Imagining the fighting game / JoJo's Bizarre Adventure like spider graph like accuracy, speed, strength like.
Toluca. Speaking of being stuck in a prison, Toluca prison. This is the Historical Society. Jess, did you have anything to call out in the Historical Society itself?
Oh, just that they did a great job. It's bigger. It feels more like a museum. Again, it feels like they made Silent Hill feel like a tourist destination that people would want to fucking visit at all in the first place. There's things to do and places to go. Like They added more little artifacts. They added another version of the Lady of Light story that Maria tells you earlier, and it ends differently. That's interesting to
Mhm.
think about. How come she told you a totally different version of this? Weird. Um, and they just did an awesome job. I was sad that there was a second floor to it that is totally closed off. You cannot go to it. I would spend a long time in this area if they allowed it to be bigger because I loved it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And if I remember correctly, the difference between the two tellings of the story, Maria's version says the guy who is going out to row to meet this woman who's isolated as a witch, basically trapped in the center of what is the lake? It's not Lake Silent Hill, Toluca Lake.
Toluca.
Um, he's rowing out to Toluca Lake, and then one day there's a storm. The storm basically knocks this rower's boat over, and then he drowns. In the retelling in the historical society, it's I think is it foggy or the woman in the lake doesn't light the lamp one day, and so he can't
I
see it. Oh no, the moon's reflection
Yeah, the moon tricked him
tricks
into
him.
thinking he's like following. In the first version, he can't see the light anymore because of the storm, and in the second version, the light is betraying him. The light is a lie, which kind of is like what's happening. Maria is the fake version of the real thing who like is, manipulating and betraying him in the end, and like these are really nice sensical metaphors for what's going on. I love it.
Yeah, and the ending of the version where the rower is being drawn by the moon. He keeps following the moon until his strength literally gives out, and then he falls into the ocean and drowns. He falls into the lake and drowns. So maybe foreshadowing, depending on what ending you get.
How big is this lake?
It's pretty big actually. Like if you look at the map, it's like I don't know, I want to say it's like twice the height of South Vale that you're able to visit. So it's pretty big old dang lake.
Yeah, it just seems weird he could be rowing far enough in one direction to get tired and drown.
Dang metaphors.
Not all
Yeah,
fairy
yeah.
tales make sense.
It's true.
Apparently, I have a lot of problems with the geography of Silent Hill. I apologize.
You're very literal.
Speaking of that geography, going down into the prison, it is a lot of stairs.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so glad they didn't wimp out on that part. That part's really iconic, going down that staircase for God, an eternity. And like that spooky, weird, like what the hell noise is that? It's not a siren, it's kind of like a foghorn, but it's also kind of like a monster cry, like this really repetitive, strange, booming, echoing noise following you for like it feels like it's like a straight minute or two you're going down these stairs. And like I remember the first time I played this game, I like wimped out and went back because I was like, I think these are one of those eternal stairs like in Mario 64 where it doesn't end and I have to do something first. But it literally just it goes for a very, very long time, and I was super pleased that Bloober Team did not like shorten that.
Yeah, and it's cool because this is supposed to be a very old prison. So the idea of the Silent Hill residents digging a staircase this deep under their historical society, it is so long that it is clearly preposterous. It is clearly a construct in James's head. And then once you get to the bottom of the stairs, I think there's just a hole and you jump down. So you go down the stairs and then it's another drop and then another drop and then another drop.
And then you're stuck at the bottom of this little well area. And then I realized, oh, that's why there's been all these walls that I can tear down with my pipe. They've been training the player to do this because in the original, you fall down this hole, you're stuck at the bottom of a well, and you're just like, well, shit, I fucked up. I soft locked myself. I gotta reset my game and figure out some other route because clearly this is a dead end and I can't go anywhere. And you're just supposed to like painstakingly examine all the walls until you find one that is weird, and then you have to either hit it with a pipe or shotgun or something, and then you break the wall. And this is something that you don't do anywhere else in the game. The game does not train you to do this whatsoever. So, like, I land in this well in this version. I'm just like, oh my god, that was bullshit. You're right, Bloober Team. Like, thank you for training me to do this. Like, I totally reset my fucking game the first time I did this because I was not getting feedback that made any sense from the game to do such a ridiculous thing. that has never been expected of me before. You're right.
Yeah, and going down, there's multiple places to break. You can have some false exits, which is cool. And then you kind of there's a few like watery one-way areas. Like there's only one exit, but it kind of feels like you're in a labyrinth. But it turns out there's just not that much to explore. There's some lying figures in there that attack you. And then you get to the prison proper. Um, how did you
They kept
find?
the bug room in there too. I was so excited
Yes.
they kept the bug room. They changed it though because that was also unfair. They fixed something that was fucking unfair. Because initially you go into this room, your flashlight fails on you, and you go, "What the fuck? What?" You're clicking your flashlight, but like, why the what the huh? And you've forgotten that like an hour ago you picked up a battery in the hospital.
Ugh.
That is for this point. You're supposed to put your battery. You change your flashlight's battery at this point in the game. You never do this before or after this point. And when you put the battery in and your light comes back on, you are surrounded by bugs. And you have to like while you're getting eaten up by bugs, you have to try to like get out of the room with the keypad by guessing the code open. And like your flashlight doesn't do that stupid shit. You don't have a battery. It's like, yeah, that was kind of unfair. You're right, Bloober team. Take that shit out.
Yeah. And Pete, how did you find that keypad puzzle? Like, did you find it frustrating? Did you figure it out quick?
Yeah, I remember that one honestly because I did find it super frustrating on the last one, and I was like, I don't want to do all this over again. But I do so, like that is one moment where the bugs. I think this is where the bugs pay off the most, right? Like bugs have been like a motif throughout the entire game, but I can appreciate the dramatic effect of the battery replacement. Like that is cool. No light,
Mm,
then light bugs. But like the gameplay fight is not worth it.
mm.
Yeah.
Another like really good bug moment where I thought like, oh, they're utilizing these bugs really well is at some point soon during the labyrinth, or like after the prison during the actual proper labyrinth part, um, you have to deal with a room slash hallway that has like two, maybe three mannequins. Not mannequins, mandarins in it, hanging underneath the grating, and the grating is completely covered in bugs. So they're really hard to see the mannequins, the mandarins. Why do I keep calling them that? So it's really hard to see the mandarins because there's swarms and swarms of insects covering up where you would usually see their hands clinging to the bottom of the grate. And I was like, ooh, that's mean, but it's a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. They do a good job of their bug tech, getting bugs to cover all surfaces. They deploy it well.
And they hide from your light. Like you can like manipulate the bugs around with your light. It's so cool.
Yeah, and it's technically like it's an actual technical achievement too, which is fun.
Yeah,
Like they're
amazing.
actually pushing stuff. Um, yeah, so when you get into the prison, you run into Eddie outside the prison. I forget, is he over a body
Mm-hmm.
in this
Yes,
He's in the
section?
canteen,
he
the
is.
cafeteria.
Right. He's in the cafeteria, and he's like, "This guy was already dead. Don't worry about it." And I
He
think at
changes his
this,
story. He initially is like, "Oh, he came after me. It was self-defense," and then
He's like he's
then James
looking
was
at me
like,
weird.
"What the fuck?" And then he's like, "I'm just joking. You should have seen your face. He was dead when I got here. Haha, never mind." Like, really
eh,
well acted. Like, all the acting in this game is like blowing my mind. But like Eddie was really, really good in this scene because he's really cartoony in the original, and they somehow like toned him down in a way that like is like far more believably menacing
yeah,
and off kilter in a way that's just like I'm not comfortable around this dude. Jeez.
he is very clearly sketchy, and you should not trust him in this
Do you
version.
think? So I definitely think this is accurate. I have a let's ask a socio-political question. Do you think he's more genuinely menacing now because this sort of dude is much more prominent and menacing in the real
Mm,
world than the original Silent Hill 2 came out?
you know, mm, that might be a factor.
Yeah, incel Eddie over here, just like blaming the world for his troubles and taking it out with violence, is definitely
Hmm.
Yeah.
a more archetypal character than it was 23 years ago,
Mm, give or take.
give or take.
And also like he's kind of like stuck in a high school mindset too, because
Yes.
he's like a guy that a lot of people do carry like high school throughout their whole lives and let it define them. Either you peaked in high school or high school like completely ruined you as a person and you'll never get over it. Like there's two types of extremes of not getting over high school. Uh and so I think that also like pairs potentially well with the like modern like school shooter vibe that he carries with him.
Yeah, the backwards hat, the ill-fitting button or collared shirt, his shorts. Like he definitely looks like an oversized 14-year-old, 13-year-old.
He's
Yeah.
immature, yeah. Like you've got like many different like maturity levels in all of these characters, which is really interesting. You have Laura who is literally immature, but she's got it together and isn't
Mhm.
seeing crazy shit. You have Angela who's 17 but is like prematurely aged by her horrible experiences in life, and you've got Eddie who is like a immature jackass who like acts like a high schooler, eats ice cream out of a bucket with his hands like a child, like, and then you've got James, who your mileage may vary on how you feel about him by the end of this game and how mature he is or not.
Yes.
Why? I'll ask another meta question again because
Yeah.
I'm enjoying getting Silent Hill answers here. Why is Laura here? I mean, I know why the others are in Silent Hill, but like, why her?
Narratively, so that James has a point of reality to
Right.
bounce off of to prove the unreality of everything else, because without Laura, and this has been a like theory for a little while of kind of debating like, is Laura real? Because it doesn't make sense why she's here. She's a little kid. How could she possibly survive here if these things are happening? How could she be getting around town so quickly and without any adult supervision, sort of stuff? There is some stuff that doesn't make sense about her. But if Laura wasn't real, then the reveal that like is the first big crack in James's delusion of everything of when did she turn 8? Like that matters so much that there's like no like possible way she could be a fake entity, because the entire premise of his reality crumbling is based off of that fact being true. Like how old she is and when did she turn 8?
Yeah, and I think that another thing that kind of is apparent is each of these characters is experiencing a different Silent Hill. Like
Mhm.
we
True.
come into Eddie's Silent Hill in some spots where we find the corpses. The area where you eventually fight Eddie feels like a very Eddie centric area. It doesn't
He's
look
very like
like
he's very paired up with cold and ice elements. Angela's paired up with fire elements. James is paired up with water elements more prominently than in the original. There's nice shit going on here.
yeah, 100%. And so there are moments where you clearly are breaking into Angela's experience and you're in an Angela space. There's spots where you're in an Eddie space. And I think Laura, we can assume, for her, it's just a normal town, right? Like
You
she's not
never
haunted.
run into her. You never run into her in the other world.
Yeah, and you never run
Ever.
into her with monsters. Like
Yeah,
she never
like
experiences a monster.
the worst that you run into her is just normal abandoned crummy places, which could feasibly be that crummy and that abandoned. And like like the big exception, I suppose, is when you're at the hotel, but that's when James is at his most like delusional in denial at the start of that. But ooh, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
But yeah, I think that there's a plausible explanation that Laura is not seeing what James and the other characters are seeing. And so when they're all freaking out and like, oh, this is so dangerous, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here. To her, it's like, what are you even talking about? Like,
You're
this is
weird.
fine. You're
It's
weird.
adults
I'm
being
just in a movie
weird.
theater.
Yeah.
Why are you chasing me around this movie theater? Why are you, why are you so upset that I'm in this hospital where I think she was a resident at the hospital? Like she, I think,
Yeah,
was
pretty
treated
sure.
in that hospital. So it's entirely possible that James and the others are kind of they're seeing stuff. Laura isn't. Laura thinks she's completely safe. They think
Yeah.
she isn't, but it's because of their own what Silent Hill's doing to them.
And there's been
These are
like a
all
lot of discussion over the years about like what does the real Silent Hill look like? Is it populated? Are there just people going around doing chores and leading normal lives? Like what is this space that James is physically occupying? Are there people around being like, what's with this weird guy? And you can't see them, or they look like, is he killing real people? Then it's like, how is that possible? He's just going on a murder spree in a normal town, then that doesn't make sense. Like there's a lot of like uh wishy-washy Schrodinger's cat sort of stuff going on with like how real is this stuff? What are these spaces? How are we interacting with people if any exist? And like even like we're making an assumption about like is time passing normally even because like
hmm
I remember people being like why is if Laura's normal she must have like a chaperone that is driving her around town to make it so that she can reach these crazy places in time for James to be there. And it's like sure, I guess, and you just don't see the chaperone, I guess, but like what if you're just perceiving time weird and it's been like a week since she saw James last. We
Yeah,
don't know.
we don't know. That James, it's very clear that these characters are I mean, we just went infinitely down to get into a subterranean prison that has open air spaces.
Yeah.
Like, stuff's weird. There's an unreality going on for sure. And one thing I just wanted to call out with the Eddie, like the person that he killed in the cafeteria, it is becoming easier and easier to tell that the corpses are all James.
Generally speaking, yeah, they're almost all Jameses.
Yeah, and this one definitely looks like James, but frozen. You can definitely tell the hair, the jacket, the clothes. The earlier corpses were a little bit more mangled, but it becomes easier to tell.
I really
So,
like the kind of diegeticness of the cold that they keep doing with Eddie.
mhm.
Clever stuff. The first time you meet Eddie, like you might not notice that his breath, like you can see his breath as if it's cold in the room he's puking in. And then next time you run into him, he's eating ice cream, so that explains why his breath looks cold. And the next time you run into him, it's in this room, and this guy is like the dead guy is underneath like a air conditioning unit that is like set way too high and has like icicles hanging from it. So like that's a plausible reason why his breath is able to be seen as if it's cold. And then you fight him in a big freezer later. So like you've just constantly got these like strangely semi-plausible reasons why cold is being associated with him the entire time, and it culminates with the big freezer fight. It starts with a dead guy in a freezer and him saying he didn't do it. It's like this is really nicely like bookended with like really good little smatterings in the middle of hinting about this ice theme that was nicely done.
yeah, and I think it kind of raises the question, like, we'll get to it when we get to the endings and stuff, but like, did something happen to these people before they got to Silent Hill, right? Are they even alive? Did they die before they got here? Did Eddie die in a cold place and that's why everything's cold? Did Angela die in a hot place and that's why everything's fire? Is it just thematic? But I really enjoy that it's always cold for him. He is always someplace, and the areas that he's in when he's there, they are unrealistically altered so that they are extra, extra cold, even when they make no sense to be. Like, this is a cafeteria. This isn't, a meat
Yeah,
locker like later.
yeah.
This isn't.
That's like a really cool like Bloober team addition to it that I liked a lot.
Yeah. So the prison proper, there's a chapel you can investigate. We get introduced to a new enemy type.
I love them.
Guess what is the new enemy?
They're these the mannequins, and they're even cuter because they're little spider critters now. And they climb on the walls, and they skitter around, and they try to jump at you, and they're so cute. I just can't. They're so cute.
They're terrifying.
I love
Pete, did you find them cute and adorable?
I did not. The second something dropped on me from the ceiling, I was like, I don't know, guys. I got to finish this whole thing. And now things are
it was
coming at the
like
ceiling.
every time I saw one, it was like I was seeing a kitten. I was just like every time I was like, oh, little guy.
So, as
Whenever they
someone
got
who
me, whenever they got me, it was like a cat like play biting. It was like, oh, you got me. Oh,
this was definitely the scariest moment in the game for me, was the prison. I thought that up until this point, the fact that you have a completely controllable camera, I think it was like a design decision. I don't know that it made the game better. I don't know that it made it worse than having the static cameras. But in the prison, I really got the sense that the controllable camera was an additive, a true plus, because it allowed the spaces to have very high ceilings and
verticality. Yeah.
added verticality, and your flashlight does not extend to the top of the ceilings. So once they put enemies up there, you are now scared of things you can be scared of things in all three dimensions in this game.
Oh,
There can be stuff above you, there can be stuff below you because of the mandarins, there can be stuff right in front of you. And that was not
genius.
a thing. That was
Genius
not a thing.
addition by Bloober Team. I fucking love it. I also love how this also feels sensical and diegetic for the mannequins to like evolve in this way, because all the previous places you've dealt with mannequins, they've had a normal standard ceiling height of like a normal indoor space. And all of a sudden you're in the prison and the ceilings are about like 20 feet tall or something like that in places. And it's like, oh, they're up there now because it benefits them almost evolutionarily to be up there instead of down here with everything. And it doesn't make sense to be on low ceilings where somebody can hit you anyway. Like, it makes sense they would be doing this.
Yeah,
And they're cute doing it, so good for them. Great glow up for them.
and the sound effects when they are running around, they sound like I mean, I guess not spiders, but they definitely evoke spiders. The scurrying sound is awful.
Amazing.
You and awful, I mean in a good way. Like it's really evocative. It's really oppressive. They are a lot of the walls in this space are chain link fence. So they can be on either side of the chain link fence. You can be safe from them and you still hear them scurrying. You can't see them most of the time because they're too high for your flashlight to reach. And so you just know you're being stalked through much of the prison by these things. And thankfully, they are not the most dangerous. Like, they don't hit that hard when they get you. But it sucks every time they do it. It felt like, oh crap, they could be coming from anywhere. And there's a lot of them too. It's not like there's just one.
Yeah. There's
They
like
swarm.
there's a bitch load of these guys in this place. And it was I don't know, it was thrilling. I really enjoyed the prison. I think I'm the only person on earth that this is like my favorite part of the game, because
Oh, it's my favorite part.
Everyone else is like peeing their pants in this place, and I'm just in here being like it's a petting zoo or something. I'm just like, oh, so many guys, how fun!
It is my favorite part of the game because it's they use all the parts so well. Like,
Yeah,
I think this is the part that it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's got a real sense of drive via a central puzzle, almost like the clock puzzle in the apartments. This one's a weight puzzle where you are getting weights that allow you to. There's two scales of justice, and you're putting weights on either side. And depending on how you arrange the weights, it causes the scale to tip towards some icons that correspond with locked doors throughout the prison. And so every weight you get lets you get another locked door open. And it's kind of like this. It's almost like is it a wheel and spoke? Is that the phrase for it? Like you're running back to that central.
Right, the central
puzzle.
hub area.
Yeah.
Hub and
I mean,
spoke.
Hub and spoke.
they've arranged a lot of the they changed all of the maps of all these levels, and the way they did it was very like intentional to have this sort of format where you have a central puzzle and it spokes out into main areas to go investigate for pieces of that puzzle, or like things to accomplish to change the central puzzle. And every time they did it, I was like, oh my god, this makes total sense to have this be the central puzzle here. Like they did that in Brookhaven, with the box that's locked in 3 different ways. I was like, that makes total sense because it used to be in the ass end of a hallway somewhere. Who cares? They did it really well in the labyrinth coming up, and I really liked how they did in the prison. And it really, the map design and the level design all kind of like loops you back into the center in like a really pleasing way, where you're unlocking previously locked doors to get your way back. It's just like every new level I went to, I was like really excited to see like, how are you going to make me flow through this level? It had a really nice flow to every place you went to because of these centralized puzzle locations.
And I also really enjoy that those central puzzles, they are almost always under a tarp. And James walks up like the world's worst magician and just pulls the tarp off. It's like, oh, dang, it's a box that pulsates. Oh,
with
no,
one
it's
major exception later, but we'll talk about that later.
ominous scales. And also the space where the ominous scales are. I heard like the sound of maybe like a bull charging or some sort of animal running around.
Horse hooves.
Yeah, or horse
That was
hooves.
that was in the original as well. The most iconic room in the prison, arguably, is that big courtyard because it has the gallows in it, and you go around collecting these 3 little like placards, which you can find them around, and they're all like broken. They're like memory flashback collectible things to get. Like, oh, we're not doing that puzzle this time. We're doing something different. But they still kept that room with the spooky gallows, which I was really thankful for. But the most iconic part of that room is probably the fact that, there is this incredible sound design in this room where it just sounds like there's a horse galloping, like, somewhere in this room, like, circling you. And, like, when I tell you I blasted through all of my ammo the first time I played Silent Hill 2, trying to shoot an imaginary sound design horse, I was so happy to hear it again in this space. It's like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. It definitely works. Were there any spots in the prison that you really want to shout out that stood out to you? Like, there's a few different locked areas. They do almost like um, Dark Souls-y shortcuts
Yeah.
at the prison that I enjoyed. Like, you'd go down these locked areas and eventually unlock a door that allows you to enter that locked area again without having to mess with the scales, which I thought was cool. The basement was pretty good. Um,
hmm
it's messed up. That's where the padded cells are. There's
Yeah.
a cell with art in it, so someone was like doing art therapy or something. But of
Yes,
course, it's
that
creepy.
was also from the original, and I was so happy to see those really faithfully recreated paintings from that patient, that prisoner. I was like, oh my god, it's Woman in Flight. Oh my god, it's 436 people at a recital. Oh my god, it's Burning Man. And Burning Man is the one that shows the hotel on fire. And in upresing that, they changed it to be the new layout of the Lakeview Hotel. So you got like a little sneak peek of how the hotel's going to look. That was like super exciting.
Oh,
And they
that's cool.
also included, and I was so happy to run into this. This made me smile ear to ear. They included this the invisible prisoner cell, which is a cell in Silent Hill 2 original, where it's just a big line of cells, like 30 cells in a row, very tiny, and one of them you cannot get into, but there is some sort of monster in there that you cannot see. It's invisible. James looks at it, and he looks up, like way up, like this thing is 9 feet tall, and there's something stomping around in there and going like ritual and like breathing. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's freaky. And you can shoot this thing and kill it and stop it from making noises, but you cannot see it. And I was wondering, like, how are they going to do this invisible prisoner thing? And they did it great. There's an open cell, and if you go into it, you hear that like ritual like sound, and there's a ton of like occult symbology all over the walls and in the room, and like strange writings and weird religious texts all over the place. And like the sound design is completely different in this room too. Like it sounds different than if you walk right outside of the cell. I was like stoked about that.
They do a lot of they maintain a lot of the original spooks from the game, and that's
So many like like real deep cut references. Like just so thrilled that they put things that nobody cares about but me in this bitch. I'm like so excited every time I find it. And then I have to explain to the chat, like, so this is something that nobody knows about except like me and four other people, but
yeah, and they did it. They actually in reproduced it faithfully. In some cases, improved, which
yeah,
good on them.
a lot of cases.
I one thing
I
I
want to
liked.
shout out.
Oh,
I
go
want to
ahead.
shout out the sound design of, so when you do go into those padded cells, it's in a place that's
Mhm.
kind of hairy. There's like a lot of the spider mannequins all over the place skittering about. So you're hearing them constantly, and your radio's going off a whole bunch too, I believe. But you go into the padded cell, and once the door closes, it's completely quiet in there. And
Yep.
I'm just like, oh, that rules. That's so good.
I also really enjoyed. There's a room next to the art room where there's lights on, and clearly, like lights are coming out from under this cell, but there's no door to enter the cell. And if you look on the map, there's clearly a cell there. And I kept looking for like a way to break in, because usually if there's a room like that, there's a way in. And I was like, James, crawl in, do something. This has got to be something. But no, it wasn't. It was just a spooky ambiance room that with no entrance,
I don't know if I noticed that one.
which was cool.
Hmm.
And at the puzzle, you eventually, you get all the scales. You have to type "sick" into a uh, typewriter that just says "sick" over and over and over again. Um, and then you get the
There's like
gallows
this
puddle.
there's this subplot about the prison warden thinking there's a pandemic going on in the prison, and there isn't. Like all the nurses are like, that's not true. So that's a really interesting subplot that got added.
Yeah, and all the prisoners are like, "Why are they treating us like this?" Oh, there's a good shower room section where you have to go to the
Oh,
back to get the weight, and there's a bunch of dead enemies all over the place, and they are not reacting to you. And of course, as soon as you get the key item you need, everything comes to life and the alarms go off. Pete, did this
oh.
get you?
Yeah, this one got me too. I'm thinking, so we've gone through my top two out of my top three scares so far was
Mm.
first thing jumping off the ceiling at me, dead mannequins coming to life. And there's definitely a third one that I had in my head a second ago. I'll remember it by the time we hit it.
Yeah, and you were scared of bugs,
Yeah, I
correct?
don't like bugs. No, me and bugs
So
don't
this
spend any time together.
they added a new type of bug that's much more threatening than the bugs that were already in the game. So
Yeah,
that's
wonderful.
nice for you.
Yeah, I enjoyed that immensely.
How did you like the gallows riddle in this version of the game, Jess?
I thought it was a really clever combination of like set pieces because the gallows puzzle actually happens a little bit later in the original when you're in the labyrinth. But and I didn't realize this until I saw it here. I was like, "Oh my god, why isn't it in the prison? What the fuck? It should be in the prison. It's about justice and execution and crimes and stuff like that. Why is this in the labyrinth and not in the fucking like it just like occurred to me then like that doesn't make sense. They're right to put it here. What the hell?" Uh but I thought it was a really good like reimagining of it. I like that it, when you do the puzzle like and you tug on the right rope on the gallows, it opens up the trap door that kills people on gallows, and that's another hole that James has to go down. And I was like, God, it's a no brainer. Like, like if it had teeth, it would have bit me. This is how this like should have been to begin with. This makes all the sense in the world to have this work like this and be where it is and function the way it does. Like, nailed it. Oh my God, incredible.
James. James too is
And
also weirdly eager to jump into holes he can't see
oh,
the bottom of.
he's looking for his wife, man. What if she's at the bottom of that hole, dude?
I guess
Gotta be
he could
thorough.
be. I don't know, like drop
I
a rock,
also
see how long it takes to hit the bottom.
he's not a logical man.
I just
He's going through it.
it would be very funny if he dropped a rock one time and then instead of ever hitting the bottom, they're just like, James, jump in the hole.
Like a mannequin just shoves him from behind. Go in the hole.
Get down here.
I also like that the gallows puzzle, like it was like I like the like format of the puzzle itself and how you had to like put these like little rhymes together to
Hmm.
have them make sense, and then you had to determine like not who was innocent, who was wrongly accused of a crime, which was the original puzzle, but who was justified in their crime, which like
This
ties so much better into the themes of the game in general. Damn,
this was
good job.
my this was my favorite puzzle in the whole thing. Was like
Mm.
matching up these poems. Because finally, for once in my life, I didn't have to go hunting around for some weird nonsense. And I could use literature, which is always appreciated.
The power of literature.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that some of the because you're pairing up like the first half of the poem with the second half, there are some first halves that seem really innocent. And then there are when you find the second half that matches, it's like one of them is like, oh, she was my child. I needed to be with her. And then the second half is like, and if I wasn't with her, no one would be. And it's like, oh no, this wasn't a justified kidnapping. This was a kidnap murder. And it's pretty clear which one of these, I think, at least in normal mode for the puzzles, it's pretty clear who's justified. Like there's murderers and arsonists, um, just thieves for thieving's sake, and then the person who's justified is someone who broke into a pharmacy to get drugs because they were sick and they
That
needed
wasn't the
treatment.
one for me.
It wasn't?
No,
What was
the
it for
one that
you?
and I'm playing it on normal also. So, and I don't think I had someone who broke into a pharmacy for drugs at
I think
all
that's what I
included. Maybe it's always what gallows was it, number 5 or something? That was the one I
mine I
chose.
think was 4.
Huh? Because the one that I chose, I don't know if you got. Maybe the riddles are slightly different based on playthroughs or something like that. But the one that was justified for me was somebody killing their mother in the first couple of lines, and then the second couple of lines says that her mother was abusing her entire life.
Oh, that
Did you
is,
not have
yeah.
that?
No, that was not one of mine at all.
Ooh! That's interesting.
Pete, did you
We're
have either of
we're both playing
ours?
on normal. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah, what
Yeah,
was
I
so
actually also had pharmacy. So who knows if it's just a coincidence or what?
interesting? I wonder if it has something to do with like your actions in the game or like what ending you're trending towards or something like that.
They saw
Ooh.
they saw me and Gino, and they're like, "You don't appreciate Silent Hill enough. You get pharmacy."
Pharmacy.
Yeah, and looking at a walkthrough right now, it seems like there are batches
Ooh.
of riddles here. So it is
Ooh.
possible to not have the same one. The solution is random on every
Ah,
difficulty. So there are
that
more puzzles
rules.
than there are answers.
That's great, and it also prevents people from just skipping gigantic portions of the game to make the main puzzle still be something you have to do something to complete for real. Because there's certain things where the codes are probably the same, and they don't change what the codes are for certain things. But there's others where it's like, oh, they could randomize that code if they wanted to on a second playthrough, so people have to do that thing.
Yeah, and if you get this wrong, you get dumped into a room with monsters. If you
Really?
get this right, yeah, if you get this right, you jump down another hole, which leads you to a graveyard, where you can find a bunch of graves. One for Eddie, one for James. You find Walter Sullivan's grave down here. There's a save point,
And Angela's.
and Angela's grave, and you have to jump in the hole that's made for you, which takes you to the labyrinth.
Yay!
What did we think of this version of the labyrinth, Pete? Do you remember what the labyrinth was like in the original game?
I don't at all. So
Okay, Jess, you
I found
definitely
it
do.
spooky.
How did you
Yeah.
find this reimagining of the labyrinth?
I fucking loved it. It felt more appropriately large, because the labyrinth is actually pretty small in the original. Um, and you can get lost in it. I heard that like a lot of people got lost in this version too, but I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm built different. But I thought it was pretty decent to navigate. Only a couple times was I like, wait, I need to find a door, and I don't know where this door would be, so I have to like really pore over the map and see like, have I not fully explored this one corner over here? Um, but I thought it ruled, and I was really excited to go to quote unquote Pyramid Head's room, where the Great Knife wasn't. They have it in the original game. Pyramid Head's knife is just hanging out in his little room that he has. Um, and you find it here, and there's no Great Knife here. And I was like, well, that makes sense. It is kind of goofy. You can just find this thing and to just carry it around with you for like the last half of the game. This way too OP weapon that's very impossible to use.
Yeah,
So I like how they changed that later, recontextualized that. But yeah, I just thought like pretty much every level I thought this is better than the original level.
yeah.
With like very, very few small complaints about the changes.
I like how James draws in the map as you go. I like Maria kind of just being off to the side. It's not hard to go back and visit her because again, it's a hub and spoke situation. There's the rotating cube like there is in the original
Ah.
game.
I was so when I saw that and I realized it dawned on me that this is the primary like hub puzzle and it is the traversal method for this labyrinth. I was like, "Oh my god, that makes so much fucking sense." Like this is such a good idea. Like I couldn't believe it.
I mean, the original game, figuring out how the hell to rotate that cube was hard. It was difficult. You didn't know if you were doing it right. It was a lot of trial and error. And
It's a lot of 3D what's it called where you can rotate an object in your mind? Something they put on the SATs.
Yeah, I
Oh
forget
yeah.
what it is, though. But I'm
Yeah,
terrible at it.
you know what I mean. But like 3D perceptual, skills or something like that. That's the essence of the original puzzle. Uh and it's also just like, a side puzzle situation. The original, it's how you get to Maria's room and you never have to go back there from that direction again. Um and it's just like putting it in this giant, huge, like crevasse and occupying it with this huge MC Escher ass stairs inside of stairs, like structure in this cube that leads you to the spokes of this area. God, fucking evocative, really cool. What a glow up for this formerly just like interesting but not important puzzle to change it into this. Good idea. Damn.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed when you rotate things properly, a walkway comes out of the central cube. So
Yeah.
there's no confusion of did you get a viable solution here?
A route,
At,
yeah.
yeah, you at least know you've got a route, and sometimes it's a dead end with a picture or ammo or something. But sometimes it's the place where you need to go, and there is an order you need to go to in the labyrinth. Oh, we didn't say you do get the hunting rifle in the prison like normal, like in the old game.
In a place that makes more sense though, in like
Yes.
an armory, like a place that would be locked very well and all that, not just like in a cabinet somewhere basically. We also skipped talking about the Maria cutscene when you run into her in the prison there.
We also missed the abstract daddy fight. Right?
Oh my god, that's right. That happened before this point.
It does happen before.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Angela, it's right.
Or during this part, during the labyrinth.
It is the kind of beginning.
Yeah.
It is before you get to the cube. So the abstract daddy fight in the original game, you're kind of pulled into Angela's hell. And it's kind of a flesh room, and there's like a monster kind of grafted onto a bed or a door that waddles at you, and it's not that good of a fight, I don't think.
And it's just that one room.
It's just that one room. It's not that big of a room.
Very obvious sexual assault imagery / symbology going on in the walls with these big metal pistons thrusting into these fleshy wall holes. It's very on the nose. And that was that. You just shoot this thing in a small room with your gun a bunch of times, and then it's dead.
And it doesn't move that fast.
No, it's very slow. And then it shows up later in the hotel like a regular enemy, which has always rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. That kind of cheapens the enemy to have it show up like a normal guy later. And Bloober Team changed that too, and I was like, yo, they got good heads on their shoulders for fixing this thing that low-key has bugged me a little bit for a while.
Yeah. And in this version, you are basically pulled, it's an apartment sort of feel, and you are pulled into this space that is, I guess, where Angela grew up. It seems like it's Angela's house. It's a full-on house. Like there's an entranceway. There's, a few rooms to the side you can explore. You eventually find Angela, and there's a TV, and it's playing like her memories, kind of, or it sounds like it's her dad talking to her, right? Like saying abusive things, putting her down, and you need to break the TV. And then the daddy shows up. The monster in this version, I think, just looks way better also than the original abstract daddy. Like it's almost a bed with legs with two heads on the back, kind of doing a beast with two backs situation, which is a monster design they've used in other Silent Hill games.
Origins. Looking bad. Looking like a sack of potatoes, that thing. But the original abstract daddy had that same design. It was just harder to suss out because the graphics were not as good.
Okay.
And also they made abstract daddy bigger, physically larger and more imposing in this, which was a really good idea as well.
Yeah, so it is chasing you. Don't let it hit you because it does a lot of damage. It has a ton of HP. And as you are shooting this thing, the environment around you will crumble. Like it will chase you. It'll break through walls. The house gets more and more beaten up. And you're in the same space. So like the drywall falls, and then you see like fiberglass and insulation behind the walls kind of exposing itself.
Rooms behind those rooms that you don't even get to go to.
Yeah. And I think the coolest part of this whole fight is the safe room in it.
Yeah.
Pete, did you find it? Safe room?
I think you have to, don't you? Don't you like?
I don't know if you have to go in it
to get to the next area or something.
There's a room with a little rabbit doll in it.
Oh,
it's
yes, yes, I did find that.
Yeah, it's like a little crevice in the back of like an like a closet or something. And if you go in there, it cannot get you. The monster cannot get you. the sound design of like the monster being around you, all of the sounds of like the house crumbling, all of it stops when you're in that little space. And it does such a good job of kind of conveying the metaphor of this is where Angela went when she was this was a space she could hide from her dad when she was being
I
abused.
also really liked how the creature design, not just like physically how it looks, but how it behaves, like also pairs very well with this like horrible symbology metaphor situation of abuse because like his moveset makes sense. He has a horrible scream attack that like stops you in your tracks. A couple other monsters have this as well, but it's like this one felt different because it was like physically damaging the environment. It felt huge. Like it felt like
Mhm.
dad's mad. And like it also had this really incredibly imposing rush attack where it went way too fast directly at you, like rushing at you in a way that was
Mhm.
so physically scary. It was super imposing, and it's like this is how huge an adult feels to a kid, how scary an adult can feel to a kid. I thought that was like such a good like pairing with all the other visual symbolism that's going on here.
Yeah, and he's also got a lunge where he just tries to grab you, which is super damaging and super scary. Um, I, this is one of the enemies that's definitely bigger than James, and you are
Yeah.
forced into a tight space with it. Whereas a lot of the other enemies that are bigger than him, you can put distance between you and it. Um, this is one where you have to kind of just be in tight quarters, dodging and dodging and dodging, and the enemy can close the quarters very quickly. Um, I think the fight's really good. It might have gone on a little bit longer than I would have liked. The Abstract Daddy takes a lot of rounds to take down, but I think metaphor, like chef's kiss, way to go. Like
Yeah, and like
that.
the way that the environment decays over time, like it starts very like literal, like a house is falling apart, and it's like, oh, like yeah, like domestic unrest sort of symbolism there. But as you like proceed through like the second, because there's like a first phase of the fight that takes place solely in that house environment, and then you have to like kind of you escape, you go through other different little areas, you break a couple more TVs, and each time you break a new television, like the environment gets stranger and worse and more biological to the point where you end up in her like version of an otherworld that is evocative of the original room where it's like flesh and pistons. You don't see the actual like penetration of the pistons, but you see them above you, and you see the mechanism of like looking at an engine that runs pistons going up and down like into these like fleshy like wallpapers and curtains and like bloody skin like something's all over the wall, and it's like so fucking gross.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, it was so like icky, like it hurt to see, like it hurt your heart to see this and have it like dawn on you like, oh my god, what happened to you? I'm so sorry, that's awful.
Yeah, and having also, if you just sit there with the TVs playing, like you get a bunch more Angela backstory.
You get more
Like
dialogue.
you get more dialogue out of what the dad did and what she did to him in response. Like you find out how she killed her dad in some ways. You find out uh, how he was abusive. And Angela just didn't. I mean, she had a lot of characterization, but a lot of it was implied in the original
Mm,
game. In this one, you get some color, and I think it's for the game's benefit.
mhm.
Um,
And like
metaphors
the
are strong and
like the
apparent.
yeah, the televisions being reincorporated in this way are really good because in the original, there's like a TV in the room that you fight Abstract Daddy in, and at the end of the fight, you fire the last round into this guy, and a cutscene starts. Angela grabs that television and smashes it over Dad's head, and like starts kicking him, and that whole cutscene plays out. But it's like, oh man, they're like seeding her doing that to him by the end of this. Like that's just good ideas. Good ideas.
Yeah. The TV is what is attacking, is kind of like what's playing the uncomfortable backstory. And so you can see why Angela eventually would grab it and throw it.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, then you go to the labyrinth, you see Maria again. She's being cryptic and like humming. You do the rotating cube
Humming the
puzzle.
theme song, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the rotten area is the first area. That's where we get those mandarins running around underneath the bugs. This area, man, it's good, but it got me. I forgot
Yeah.
that James is filling in the labyrinth puzzle as you're running around, so I just kept getting lost, thinking, I need to just memorize these layouts. Did not need to do that. That was my fault.
Nope. Oh, a room that I wanted to bring up in this area is a room that does not exist in the original, and I really, really like this addition. You go into a regular ass door in this place, and
Mhm.
James walks in here and he goes, "What the?" And it is like a cubicle, an office cubicle is in
Right.
here, and a
Yeah.
single nurse is in here. And it's like, oh my god, this is James's workplace. What?
Oh,
Yeah, this is where James works, and there's an implication there that like maybe he cheated on Mary with someone at work or something because there's a single nurse in there. She's making sexual noises, and the only thing you see when you walk in is like this cubicle from the front, so you don't see the office stuff behind it, and you just hear like this gross female, like sexy sort of moaning noises. It's like what the fuck, and then you turn around, it's like oh, it's a nurse, and this is a desk, and he doesn't have any other comments about it, but his initial comment of like what the like implies like I recognize this. That was
yeah.
really good. I like that.
Yeah, it is really good. I didn't put two and two together. I thought that this was a weird space, and it didn't seem like it was coming from one of the other characters. I just
Mm.
didn't put it together with it being James's past, which makes sense. I mean, you were descending into his psyche at this point, so it makes sense that hidden in there is maybe something he did that something else he did that he regrets.
Or just like,
Um,
you know, you don't have to physically cheat on somebody to feel like you've emotionally cheated on somebody too. There's this like there's still this like ambiguity to whether or not like how bad was James to Mary. There's very few like confirmations of it, so you can walk away from this believing whatever you want about James.
yeah. So the start with the rotten area. You have to eventually burn. Like there's something leaking in a like cage, and you have to assemble a lighter, build your own lighter, you burn it, and then jump through a hole. Um, then there's the desolate area, which this area, yeah, this is the one where Pyramid Head I think is around, right? Like it's a bunch of cracked walls and watery areas, and you eventually have to find your way to kind of like an underground water area. Yeah, you get wire cutters. Pyramid Head
Mm.
is stalking in this
Aw.
area. There's
He
slashes
did.
all
Well,
over the
that's fine.
walls. You have to run from him. You're like stuck in a donut kind of around him.
That's where
With
his room
him.
is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And then you get the ruined area, which is kind of a battle zone. Like you enter rooms, and then a siren will go off, and monsters will activate, and you have to just survive until the alarm stops. Which was evocative. It got me the first time. Pete, did it get you the first time? Was this your third time you got really spooked?
It did get me. The third time I was spookest, and this was a slow burning spooking,
Mm.
is the elevator bit where they take all your gear again. I always hated that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so stoked about that. That's later, but oh, I can't wait
Yeah.
to talk about it. But I also want to shout out that incredibly evocative, totally new imagery of you like turn a corner and there is a big like it looks like a door. It's a big threshold and it's full of mannequin legs all over the sides of the walls and they're all like warped and wiggling like it's
Yeah.
kind of like it looks like a heat effect on them the way they're warping and wiggling and they're not rigged like legs. They're rigged like tentacles or hair or something like that. That was so fucking cool. I loved staring at that.
Yeah. That effect was really good. Um, and boy, oh boy, like this labyrinth is so much better than the
It's so
previous
cool.
labyrinth. It's
It's
got
so
so
cool.
much more going on. Like once you solve all the cube puzzles, there's the Pyramid Head's giant sword has crushed the cube, and then you pick it up, and it is unwieldy to hold. So
And
you
that was
hold
after you find Maria's body and
right,
like the jail cell is like broken open from the inside clearly by Pyramid Head and the and the great knife and then you walk out of there after this sad ass cutscene finding Maria dead again and there's the great knife wedged in this thing, and yeah, you try to take it, and it's like even more unwieldy than it is in the original game, where you can just have it as an item in your inventory preposterously. You could actually use it to kill monsters if you want to try, but it's not. They don't let you have it as an actual inventory item this time, which is a little sad. But I'm also like, no, you're right. That was kind of goofy.
It makes way more sense.
Yeah. And like using the knife, like just having the knife makes those legs like go away because they're scared of Pyramid Head. They're scared of the knife. And like making James carry the knife to progress in that way is really, that's really evocative. That's really good. That's really like, you are Pyramid Head, right? Do you get it? That's you.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then you have to carry his sword shittily because he's James. You're waddling around, and they kind of repurposed that being encumbered like you are when you hold the sword in the original game, but it's not a weapon. In this case, it just kind of scares the mannequin legs away so you can get through the mannequin hallway. Oh, did either of you, when you fight Pyramid Head in the first mannequin hallway, did you try to fight him?
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I took a few shots just to see.
Okay. I screwed up
just
the
ran.
first time. I screwed up the first time because I thought it was too tight of a quarters. So I was like, oh, this must be a real fight. And then he wasn't reacting to my shots, and I used a ton of ammo, and I was like, he's not taking any damage. Then I reloaded and was like, okay, this must be a run sequence. Because you can kind of like juke around him with iframes. It's not, if you could hurt him, it wouldn't be that bad. But yeah, once you finish the labyrinth, you end up on the docks somehow. And
Yeah, after you beat Eddie, you have to fight Eddie.
Oh, right, Eddie. Eddie!
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did that fight go?
Bad for me. I used so much healing items.
It's
was
a
cool.
fight, though.
How did you find the fight, Pete?
I enjoyed it. That was probably my favorite boss fight. Like, I think we talked about all the ways that Abstract Daddy like works from a storytelling perspective and just really sort of moves the game forward. But I think in terms of just like pure combat, I've always liked the Eddie fight the best because he's sneaky.
Yeah, he's fast too. He's really fast in this. He could
He
have made
is.
the football team.
Yeah, and fighting him in the meat locker and
Oh.
the reactivity of the weird corpse meat slabs when he shoots them, that's really cool.
That was like so scary to realize that like he can damage these and they're not cover forever for me.
Yes.
I really goofed and I wasn't thinking because I was like kind of panicked, but I had my flashlight on the whole time. If you shut that off, he can't like shoot you as good.
Wow, I didn't even notice that.
Oh, I didn't.
Never
Yeah.
occurred to me.
Like obviously, duh. Like in retrospect, I was like, God, I should have fucking shut my goddamn light off. Duh. But he was sniping me what good, and I felt like a big idiot that was bad at video games. I was being mean to myself. But yeah, I should next time I play it, I'm going to shut the fucking flashlight off because it's not that dark in there. You can see him, and honestly, I think your flashlight probably just bounces off the cold fog and probably makes it harder to see than if you have it off.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. I think I turned off my flashlight at least a few times, and yeah, he's not going to hit you super well, but you're not going to hit him super well either.
I already wasn't hitting him super well, so
yeah. Even at least then it would even the odds.
Yeah.
And I found that I was using the shotgun in here more because he's fast, like you said, like lining up a shot with the hunting rifle. He's likely to shoot you before you shoot him. And yeah, you go through 3 rounds. Like the first one is normal. Second round, it gets foggier. Third round, the corpses and things start to move on tracks.
Meat carousel.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And when you take him out, you can't get his gun.
Nope.
James is like, I killed a person. Oh, we didn't say before the Eddie fight, there's just a room full of James corpses. And Eddie's like,
I also
go
really
ahead.
like that they redid that scene so well. I love that he is not as hammy as he was in the original. he used to be like, and a corpse can't laugh. But in this one, he's like, and a corpse can't laugh. And he's like punctuating every word by shooting an already dead corpse in there. Like, that is fucking actually threatening and not like hammy and goofy the way that it was. It's like, oh my god, this guy is fucking scary now. They made him genuinely scary. Good on you, Bloobs. And also he said a couple of really evocative things during the fight. He said something like, how many times do I have to kill you? Which I thought
Yeah.
was super interesting.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that he's been killing James's forever. Or like, he's been killing James over and over and over again in his mind. And yeah, this is the first battle that James like, I killed a person. Maybe I'm not such a good guy.
I'm glad they
You don't say,
changed.
James.
I'm glad they changed a lot of like the things that they did change. They would take out little lines that were really cheesy, and one of them was in this scene where James literally goes like, "I killed a human being, and then he gets up and goes, "Mary," and then he wanders away. And they took that out. They just had him staring at Eddie and like looking at his hands and staring at Eddie and not saying anything. And it's like, yeah, that was fucking cheesy. You're right to take that out in a modern video game. You can't just stare at your hands and say, "What have I done? A human being."
Yeah, for sure. So now we reproduce the parable of the Lady of the Light, and we start rowing towards an island in the center of the lake to go to the hotel, the Lakeview Hotel.
Well,
You follow.
the hotel is not on the island. The island is actually just elsewhere. You don't go there unless you're going to the rebirth ending on a separate playthrough, I assume.
Oh, okay.
But you just go the other side of the lake to northern Silent Hill.
Okay, but you do follow a lighthouse
Mm.
at the very least. So, like, you're following a light source to the other side of the lake. You're going to the hotel. Can you explain? I guess if you're doing the rebirth ending, you can go a different route then, right?
I don't know. I'm hoping to find out for myself next playthrough because I have been finding a couple of rebirth related items.
Okay.
So I'm excited to find out. I would not be surprised if you don't physically row there and it plays the same way as in the original where you go through the hotel, you do all that stuff anyway, and then it's just a cutscene where you go there.
Okay.
But they
Yeah.
did model that island. You can see it from the dock.
Yeah, and you do. They give you some freedom to row. So I was wondering if there is any exploration to be done on the lake, or if it's
Not
just
that
a
I
cool
know
transition.
of. Not that I know of. I was told that if you row too much in the wrong direction, it just teleports you to the center of the lake. Like, try again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the Lakeview Hotel, it's a cool location. I really like what they did.
Beautiful. Oh my
I
god.
think it's the best part of the game.
Yeah. Like, I just like had my wedding reception at a hotel that looks uncannily similar to this hotel. And I was like, oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. And I really enjoy that it's not dangerous to start, similar to the hospital. You are exploring, like there's topiaries, there's stuff to look at. You're going in the back door also, which I thought was also appropriate that, of course, James would slink in the back. He would not go through the grand entrance.
Well, it's the side that faces the lake, so convenient.
Yeah. Yep, also convenient. And Laura's in there. You have the cutscene early
Yeah.
on where Laura tells you about the letter that Mary wrote her a letter and wrote James a letter. And Laura has lost James's letter. And this causes James to lash out at her because
He does. I will say though, James does a better job not freaking out. Like he freaks
Yes.
out because he's James, but not as badly as he did earlier in the game. There's growth.
yeah, for sure. He tries to hide the contempt for this child a little bit better.
I also feel like Laura has slightly warmed up to him,
Mhm.
in a realistic way over time because, like, she mentions that, like, because she was friends with Mary, like, she, said that, like, she talked about Silent Hill a lot, she talked about you a lot, like, she loved you, like, she's trying to, like, justify in her head being less mean to James, like, you can tell that the gears are turning in her head to try to be less, like, a brat. to James, and James is trying to meet her on a similar level of like not treating her like garbage. So there's a lot of like really interesting like added nuance to this relationship in the scenes that they share together. But yeah, this is like the scene where like he does math and realizes, wait a minute, the timeline doesn't make sense on what I think happened here to Mary. Because I think she died 3 years ago, but this letter says happy 8th birthday, and she turned 8 last week, so she cannot have died 3 years ago. What?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where he starts to realize his math is screwy.
This is when the hotel, the environment starts decaying more obviously. Like it was a little like, abandoned, but it wasn't like crappy. It wasn't a shitty looking hotel. And then like soon after this point, like you start exploring more of the hotel and it's like, oh, the wallpaper's peeling. Ooh, it's dirty. Things are broken. Ugh. And it just gets like worse and worse as the illusion falls to pieces. This is the only nice other world that James has is the hotel. It looking nice is the other world.
Yes. Yeah, his vision of the hotel when you come in and everything looks pretty much normal. Like it's not too dilapidated when you first enter. That is the illusion. The illusion is nice, which is cool. And it's an inversion of some of the other spaces, I think. Where it seems like maybe the place is not messed up. Or potentially it could not be messed up, and it's getting messed up. The other world or kind of the spookification that happens in Silent Hill. But yeah, like Lakeview is really cool. It expands really organically. Like you start on the first floor, you start getting more keys. It opens up more wings of the hotel. There's a lot of puzzles in here too. I think a lot of them are new too, right? Right, Jess?
Yeah.
Like almost all of them.
Pretty much all of them, and they like recontextualize the music box puzzle in a really interesting way that I liked a lot too.
Yeah, Pete, were there any puzzles that jumped out to you as especially egregious in a bad way that you didn't enjoy?
Oh man, I mean, I'm on record as hating a lot of the Silent Hill puzzles. I think my issue with them, it isn't so much the puzzles themselves. Like once you get the equipment, they're usually good, right? Like the weight puzzle's good. I said I love the poetry puzzle. The music box puzzle's interesting. I have to like figure out the trajectories of the dancers. Honestly, the annoying part is just collecting all the stuff
You're
because
not
they're
into
like,
the Metroidvania aspect of it.
yeah, and they're always in weird spots, and you just gotta like open cabinets and stuff. But
They're in
I
a
don't
lot
know.
more sensible spots
Yes,
than they were in the original, though. Like
yes,
I'm also
it's
noticing
definitely
this
improved.
in the very very small amount of my New Game Plus replay, like where I have already run into one of the rebirth items that you need to collect for that ending, and it's in a place that makes way more sense. It's in like a graveyard near a spooky looking occult looking gravestone, and that makes a lot more sense than where it is in the original, which is a fucking gas station. It's like practically lying on the floor somewhere, like in the original. It's like there's no gravitas to collecting this. So
Guess
I
a
really like what they.
cultist car broke down.
Yeah, they just accidentally left it there. I guess I don't know.
Whoops.
Whoops. Oh,
Yes.
the music box puzzle is the only main hub puzzle where James does not do the ta-da unveil of it. It's already unveiled. Spooky. Who did that? Ooh.
Yeah, that's true. Is there a harp on the ground by it?
Yeah.
Is there someone yeah, so someone has already done the da-da.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Who could it
interesting.
be?
I also the original music box puzzle, there's not the Disney princess theme, right? Is
There is,
there in
yeah.
the original? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked the broken glass and the apple for the Snow White. You got the Little Mermaids down in the water zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cinderella, what is the Cinderella one?
Was that in the fireplace?
Oh yeah, that was in the fireplace. Oh, you have to clean. You're a maid.
Oh, you have to
Follow the
clean.
maids.
Ah, that's. I get it. Shit, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you're following the maids, and
That's
then the
good.
last place that they cleaned. And when you clean out the fireplace, you get attacked by new monster. I think.
Mandarin, you get to fight it.
Oh, that's a Mandarin?
That's a
Yes.
Mandarin, and you actually get to fight it for real. This is the first Mandarin you fight above ground at all. And I couldn't believe
Oh,
it. There is no mid-level boss fight in the hotel originally. So this was a huge surprise to me. I was absolutely thrilled. I gasped in delight. I was like, get the fuck out. No fucking way. Shooting
I
this
did.
thing, being like, yay, it's a Mandarin.
I didn't realize that was a Mandarin. That was because I'd only ever seen the arms. I didn't
Yeah.
know what the body looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks to look at. I hate it,
I love it. It's so good. Oh my god.
but it's
This
really
is also
cool.
like this is also when I realized, like, after you fight this thing and it dies and its body is just on the ground, I always like getting a good look at these critters when they're being still, and I can get all close to them and check out their textures and everything. I did that for Abstract Daddy too. There's a lot of fun details on that model, and this is where I realized, like, looking over the Mandarin, that there's all the little white bits that are on these monsters. It's medical tape. And I
Yes.
was like,
Oh,
"Oh, of course it is!" Like, and all these like various like white like tape like things that you've been seeing. That's like, "Hey, James, go this way." That's all fucking medical tape
It's all
and bed and
gauze.
hospital sheets and gauze. It's like, oh my god, I just thought it was white sheets. I wasn't paying attention. Of
that didn't
course. Oh
occur to
my
me at
god.
all.
Hell yeah, that rules.
Yeah. Yeah, they do a good job. Way to turn the like yellow paint to go the right direction stuff into a thematic.
Hell yeah.
Hey, James, you're being led around by a hospital gauze. Wonder why that is. Oh well.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. That's like
Um,
environmental storytelling, like in a
yeah.
sneaky way. It's not just like some dead guy's journal saying like, "Hope a zombie doesn't bite me today."
Yeah, and it's just so impressive because so many modern games use some sort of visual indicator of where you're supposed to go,
Mhm.
and it's usually so contrived.
Yeah,
It's usually
and
an
like
unnatural color,
yeah, and I
and
did a whole video essay about this, about Horizon doing this way too much because
mhm,
as like graphical fidelity has gone up with video games, it has become more difficult to lead the player's eye and subsequently actions and body to the right places to progress because there's just too much visual information going on. So you have to make it super ridiculously obvious. Hence all the please climb me paint, hence all of the detective vision stuff, because people just get lost with all of this information. But they did a really good job because it's like in Silent Hill, everything is dirty and grimy and dingy, and here's like the one clean thing. So it immediately draws your eye from that contrast of dirty versus clean, dark versus light. This is really clever shit.
yeah, it's really well done. Way to turn a contrivance into environmental storytelling. I also enjoyed
Love
in
it.
this section. There's a item you need that is on a greenhouse or like a glass ceiling of
Mm.
the. It's one of the like restaurants has a glass ceiling. And you eventually come to a room and it's just full of bird cages. And as you go in, like birds or some wind blows a door open and it kind of draws your attention outside. And that's where you'll notice that there's an item there, and you need to shoot out the glass
Hmm.
to cause the item to fall. And it's I think a paint can. Eventually,
It was a book.
a book, and then inside of the book is like either paint or a light bulb or something. It's something to solve that light bulb puzzle.
Might have been a
Um,
key to a different room that led to
oh, it was a
the
can
room that
opener.
has the yeah. Oh, it was a can opener, right?
There's a
That might have
can
been it.
opener in a book that you then use to open a paint can that you use to paint the light bulb red so that you can get a combo lock.
I gotta keep my can opener safe and secret. If you have a better suggestion than putting it into one of those hideaway books, I'd love to hear it.
Look, you just gotta hollow out a book for your can opener so that people who break into your house can't open your beans. But yeah, I liked that they used gunfire as an environmental puzzle too.
Mhm.
Like it makes sense, and since this game is going a little bit more for reactivity with weapons and combat, I thought that was a pretty clever thing. And I without that gust of wind, I wouldn't have even noticed that there was an item out there that I needed to shoot out. So good on
Mhm.
them for directing my eye.
It's also
Um,
it's a very different like you can go out on like some of the little verandas and porches of these various hotel rooms. This one is very different. This is the only one that looks out over the so far as I know that you could access, the only one that looks out over this glass window ceiling to the restaurant. So it's like very visually different too. Like, why are they showing me this? This is an odd. Oh, what is that thing over there? because you've never seen this angle before. So it's like a very clever thing to do too, to make it like exclusive to this room.
Yeah, for sure. So now we're approaching the moment. Jess, what did you think about it? The
Oh my
VHS tape.
god. Oh my god. Ah, they did a great job. Oh my fucking god. Like, I had the small, I had the easiest, pettiest little complaint about this scene, but the whole rest of it was like a clear upgrade to everything. I really, really liked the videotape itself. You could kind of tell what was going the fuck on. And like, originally when I played Silent Hill 2, the original one, that videotape is so nebulous, so blurry, so vague that I had to like infer from how devastated James was what happened there. Like I could not tell what fucking happened in the video. And I'm glad that they made it slightly more clear what exactly happened there while still making it very blurry, still very like shocking and visceral. Like they just did a super good job, and the acting from James and Laura following that was phenomenally good. Just they nailed it. They fucking nailed it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, they did. They did a great job. Laura coming in, James saying "I killed Mary," like all of that stuff coming together super well. I thought they reproduced that cutscene really well, and I think they held on to the parts that were important and just touched it up. Pete, did you have any thoughts on the reveal?
Only one, and I feel like this is a petty complaint, but I'm going to make it anyway. I
Hit
mean, I feel
me.
like it's time to update the VHS. You know, turn it into like a Netflix stream or like USB drive. Give me
I'm
something.
gonna stream my wife's murder.
Hey guys, like and subscribe.
Hey guys, coming at you with some killing my wife.
Oh man,
Slam that like button, slam that subscribe button, or I will smother you.
slam that like button. Oh man,
Hit
if
the
it was a
lever.
Netflix, it was Netflix, that'd just be hilarious. Oh man, I guess I could watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or what's this?
Or
Perfect my
Mm,
life.
or some sort of weird home movie. What is this? My petty complaint about that, I have two little petty complaints. One is that I don't like that they transitioned the room to be the other world, like not the other world. Just crappy, burnt out, modern day. Actually, what the room looks like. I liked that when that cutscene was originally over, you were still in that space, and then when you exited into the hallway, all of a sudden it was like, whoa, what happened here? Like, I liked that reveal better. It was kind of a fade to black thing in the midst of this cutscene here. Like, that wasn't my favorite directorial decision. And the other directorial decision I didn't like was in the original, like, after Laura leaves the room and James is devastated, the radio starts going off, and he's like, oh, Mary! And she's like, James, where are you? Come and find me, blah, blah, blah. I'm waiting for you. And then, like, the cutscene stops and it's gameplay, and the radio's still going off, and she's pleading with him, like, do you hate me? Is that why you won't come? James, please, James. And you can still hear it while you're doing gameplay stuff.
mhm.
That was completely just in the cutscene alone, and I was like, oh, that's like a little bit of a whiff for me. I kind of really liked like it kind of kept you in the cutscene and in that mood by making it like mush over, crossfade into reality, into gameplay stuff. And they also did a similar thing with Angela's fire cutscene as well, that I have a similar complaint about. Just keeping it very siloed in the cutscene.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is maybe the one, and we'll go over another scene later that I think suffers in the same way, uh, between siloing the emotional content to the cutscene and then cutting you straight to a more, just shuttling you along to the next part of gameplay instead of letting those two bleed. But yeah, it's definitely noticeable. I think that it's one of the few. I mean, it's a slight misstep, but it's I think a misstep nonetheless.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker. It's
No,
just I would have preferred it if sort of thing.
sure.
It's a slight disappointment, but I'm not like, it ruins the whole thing. You ruined the entire thing. Fuck you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So once the hotel goes wrong, um, man, it looks cool. Like the
Mm.
sound design is really good in the ruined hotel.
Oh,
Do we even call it the other world, or is this reality? Like
that's
it seems
reality, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a hotel.
hotel's burned out, right? Canonically.
Yeah, canonically, there was a fire at the hotel. Something I really enjoyed that they kept in for the old heads was in the basement of the place. They kept in Johnny, a real hot guy, which is a heater, a really old looking, fucking Soviet looking heater, a space heater that was in the corner somewhere, and James could examine it and just read "I'm Johnny, one real hot guy," and it was just surrounded by a lot of flammable looking shit, like a bunch of curtains were right near it and stuff like that. So, like, the big fan theory was like, this is the cause of the fire, is Johnny, one hot guy, and they kept it in this thing. They had him in the corner. He was near a bunch of flammable looking shit, and it was also right underneath some those like shutter blinds, those like,
Okay.
and like those were like melty near it, like they
Yeah,
looked really
let's.
fucked up. Oh, nice job.
Ah, dang. We need to put a bunch of flammable materials and then a nice fire path directly above Johnny so that it can reach an upper floor.
Perfect.
Way to go. Yeah, I really enjoy how like the basement is flooded because they put out a fire and water
Mhm.
pools in the basement. The floor is creaking all over the place. There's not that much
Oh my
ammo
god.
to find.
It
Um,
felt really dangerous to be in this place. Like, really, really, you should not be in here. You will die from falling through the floor or the ceiling caving in on you. Like, the sound design in this place made it feel incredibly bodily dangerous to be in this space. I loved it.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed how like one of the puzzles is just grabbing a cart. It's a cart, unlike the other carts where you move it into place and then you climb on top. This one's full of junk, and you just push it over a delicate floorboard, and it collapses the floor. And you, it's I think the final jump down that James does
Oh, maybe,
in
yeah.
the game. You jump down and you investigate. There's a lot more broken walls to go through to navigate. A lot of the hallways are collapsed, so you can't go through
Something
them.
something they took out, which I think was actually a good idea in retrospect, but I was a little disappointed at the time. Uh, there during the sequence, there was a bunch of like teleportation doors that would lead to different hallways. So
Mhm.
you would go into a door that looks like goes to a room and it would poop you out somewhere in a hallway, and you had to check your map over and over again and trial and error which door would bring you to where you wanted to be. Good idea taking that out, actually. I didn't need that. Keep the flow going. Just make it like ruined and normal, and you're navigating it in weird ways, but you're not being like yeeted all over the place for no good reason.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy that there's a consistency to the space in here. There's no, like you said
Because
earlier, this
if it
is the
really is
reality.
reality,
Yeah,
yeah, if it really is reality, it shouldn't be teleporting you places, should it?
yeah.
Makes sense.
It's
I
not a
will
magical space
teleport. Yeah.
anymore.
Oh,
You don't
wait.
teleport, Pete?
No, not in
What?
reality. I don't. I know.
Okay.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I guess if you don't. But yeah, once you go to the basement, you explore around a little bit, and then you get the Angela scene.
Oh, this was
Uh,
like a make or break scene for me, where it's
yeah,
just like, oh please, this is like the last scene I don't want you to fuck up, big time. Like, this is like the last point where you could lose me in a pretty pretty big way. It wouldn't ruin the whole game, but I would be like, man, that it was marred by this part in a big way. And like they really, really, really nailed this scene. They changed a couple things about it that I think were fine to change. I didn't realize they were fine to change until I saw it in this context. And it's like, wow, really, really good. I got emotional not at the scene, but when it was done and I realized the relief that washed over me that they didn't fuck it up.
yeah, yeah. It's really well delivered. Angela's voice actress crushes it.
Oh,
Again, I like that there's like a flesh monster on the wall while the fire is going off, and you only really see
so
it in one scene
that
or
was in
one
the original
angle.
as well. Uh,
Okay.
and those corpses on the wall is commonly thought to symbolize her father and her brother, and she's killed both of them.
Oh, okay. Do we know? Do we
Mhm.
even know that she has a brother in this version?
So,
Uh,
yes, at the beginning when you are introduced to her, she's like, I'm looking for my mama. I thought my father and brother were here too, but I can't seem to find them. Uh, and also, like, during, uh, when you first enter the Abstract Daddy area, you go into, like, there's a hallway, and in that hallway are two doors. One is locked. The other one you go through and you do the Abstract Daddy stuff. The locked door has a bunch of, like, band stickers on it, and it kind of
Yeah.
feels like this is a boys' room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what that was implying because I thought that was Angela's room or something. Like she was a punk kid.
No.
Okay, but yeah, that. So at this point, I think we assume she burned down her house. Um,
Mhm.
we see the fire everywhere. I just love when James is like, "It's hot as hell in here," and she's like, "It's always like this for me."
Oh,
That's
they did that line so well.
It's so good. And I
Oh.
think that's what really solidifies the thematic. Like each of these people is being haunted by something different. You are
Mhm.
sometimes stepping into Angela's space, and here, when you step into her space, there's fire everywhere. When you step
I
into Eddie's space, there's ice.
I like love how they added a little bit more of the characters confronting James for being like kind of a dick to them during the game.
Hmm.
Like Eddie was like, "Oh, you got to condescend to me some more, James?" Like during his confrontation with him, and it's like, yeah, he has been really condescending to Eddie this whole. He's kind of been a
like,
low key a bit of a dick, right?
that's a good
Hmm.
point,
And
Eddie. I mean, stop murdering people for doing it. But like, yeah, that's
yeah.
rude.
But yeah, you're not wrong about that. And like, this is the famous confrontation with Angela saying like, don't pity me, or oh, do you think you can help me, heal me, like take care of me, love me? Like, and like gets in his face in the original cutscene, it goes into a first person mode for that. When she's like really talking down to you and like intimidating you about this, like, oh, are you good? Are you really gonna like help me, or do you just feel bad for me? And he doesn't answer, and it's like, yeah, that's what I thought. And it wasn't first person mode in this, but I thought they did a really really good job with it. Regardless, it still felt like she was like appropriately mad at him for acting like a nice person, but not being a nice person.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, scene's really good. It then drops you kind of. This is the other scene where I thought having it carry forward in the original game, like you could see Angela continuing to walk up the burning staircase. In this one, it just smash cuts you to stairs and you can't go back into the room you were in.
Yeah, it
Um,
just concludes the cutscene with James leaving in the cutscene, leaving the room. Whereas in the original, yeah, it bleeds over into the gameplay. You can see her vanishing slowly up the stairs. You can try to go after her, and the fire burns you, and there's nothing you can do, and you have to choose to leave, and then it just like pops you back where you were going in the first place. And I have a feeling that maybe they changed that because gamers are stubborn and
mhm.
might have been like, "No, I can save her," and like we're like stuck here just for no reason psychologically and unable to like accept that you couldn't help her, even though that's like the whole point of the fucking scene. Like,
Yeah. I want to save the sexual assault teenager. James is a good guy. This is what he would do. He would definitely go try to save her.
oh no, I should have picked up some sort of fire extinguisher at some point earlier in the game. I gotta reload and look for it.
I can't believe I didn't. I just picked up so many sleeping beauties and not enough fire extinguishers.
Damn it.
Yeah, yeah. And one other thing with the hotel, Otherworld, I really enjoyed that the fire, like the hoses and things, are used. They're like out because they've been
Yeah,
used.
right. They are. That was a good detail I didn't like, key in on. But that's great.
Yeah,
Also,
like
like I super love the so you start on like the top floor once the
mhm,
hotel is like ruined and in reality, and like it's sunset outside, so you've got this beautiful ethereal but like still scary light coming through that is evocative of a fire because it's like sunset orange outside, and like you have this natural light coming in on the third floor. You go down to the second floor, it's darker. You go down to the first floor, it's darker. You go down the basement, it's darker. Like really good, really really good use of the space.
yeah. And once you come up from the elevator, stairs, so you elevator down to the basement, then you take the stairs up to the first floor. There are enemies in the first floor, but they're wrong, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, So you run into a lying figure, and it's just curled up in the fetal position.
Doesn't do
Um,
anything to you.
no, doesn't come after you, doesn't try to do anything. You can still kill it, but it is just curled up in the fetal position. And I thought the lying figure, I was like, okay, you're gonna get up and you're gonna get me. I get it. And
Yeah, I
no,
shot it.
yeah. Then you run into a nurse, and she just kind of like staggers towards you. I was like lining up a shot, and then she staggered and then fell face first and just
Yeah,
stayed
she like
down.
lethargically like fell down. And then you run into one of the spider mannequins and it sees you and it like cowers from you.
Yeah, it runs away and it will
Wow.
hide in the corner basically, which a really good use of enemies. That did not happen in the original game, right?
No,
It didn't
there's
do
no
anything that
enemies after
cool.
that point in the game. That was like a really, really cool change that I genuinely really liked. I was like, that's neat. And I'm sure it
Yeah,
influences your ending, whether or not you kill those things.
I bet. Yeah, and I really like that the game is like, hey James, you're scary.
You're
You
scary.
you kill a lot of things. You're the problem here, bud.
Things, people, whatever he can get his hands on.
Yeah, really. And at this point, we know you're a murderer, and the game treats you like a murderer at this point, which I think is really interesting. And we get to the finale. So
Oh,
they give
can I
you a bunch
talk
of
real
items.
quick? Can I
Yep.
talk real quick about the iconic final save point,
Sure.
which
Yes.
has the 3x3, like the save icons, the pieces of red paper, super iconic, always has been, and it's even fucking cooler now because when you save this time, James is usually his face is there and he's looking dead on at the save point when he saves. Not this time. This time he is like averting his gaze and like nervously, like he looks
Oh,
like nauseous and nervous and he's not looking directly. He can't like maintain eye contact with the save point. That was so cool. I loved that.
that's really cool. I didn't notice
Oh,
it.
it's
I was
subtle. I was like,
I was
wow,
too
no
busy
one's gonna
saving.
notice this. This is so cool. God. And then you go into the double pyramid head fight. Oh my gosh, they did an excellent job with this.
Yeah. So the double pyramid head fight. Um, there's two of them. They have spears. They are dangerous, but
They
not like
throw the spears this time. Oh my
they
god, of
do.
course they should be throwing the fucking spears. That's what you do with spears.
Yeah. I forget in the original game. Does Maria get killed on camera? Like, do
Yeah.
you see the stabbing?
No.
Okay. I couldn't
It
remember.
zooms in, it zooms into her face like the same way that it does here. And you just
Okay.
hear the meaty stabbing.
And then you see the blood running down.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember if that was still there because I remember they cut away with the mannequin scene earlier. I think the scene where she gets stabbed in the elevator is pretty much the same. I
Mhm.
couldn't remember if this was also toned down in terms of the explicitly like sexualized violence.
It's basically
But
the same.
basically the same. Okay. You fight the pyramid heads. You can shoot them to expedite the process. You also can just run from them
I'm
because
pretty sure
ultimately.
this one isn't timed. I'm pretty sure
Oh,
you do
really?
have to do damage to them. I think only the first encounter is timed, and you can shoot him to shorten the time. But I'm
Okay.
pretty sure you do have to shoot these guys.
Okay, because I was shooting them and it felt like they were taking a million bullets, and then all of a sudden they decided to stab themselves, and I wasn't sure if it was another time battle or not.
I believe it's damage based. If I'm
Okay.
not terribly mistaken.
Yeah, but that really good fight again. Them just killing themselves instead of you actually killing them, or it's very appropriate. I like that James in the original game. Does he say, "I don't need you anymore"?
They rewrote it to sound less cheesy. So they did a really good job with the rewrite here. Um, he like literally says like now I understand. I needed you to punish me for my sins, but that's all over now. Now it's time to end this. And then the
Hell yeah,
fight
Oh,
happens.
James.
It's like so cheesy. It's so goofy. Uh, but yeah, they rewrote it to be a little less like let's go like, about it.
yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say is now they've written it to where he's like, I don't need you anymore, and the ambiguity, and it's honestly probably better that it's more ambiguous.
Mm.
Like, I was not sure if he meant I needed to be the killer. Like, I needed you to kill Mary. I needed
Mhm.
this impulse, this dark impulse, and I don't
I
need you
think,
anymore.
yeah, I think it's also more ambiguous whether or not he's talking about Maria or
Oh
Pyramid
yeah,
Head here. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, it could be Maria
because they're both punishing him, you know,
in a way.
and
Yeah.
haunting him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was super cool, and then we get to the big final boss fight. You get the 2 eggs, you leave, save up, they give you a bunch of healing items again, a bunch of ammo, and, you run into Maria or Mary at the top of this abstract space.
Hmm.
Um, and did everyone who did we see? Who did each of you see at the top?
Maria.
I got Maria.
Yeah, Maria as well. Okay. So Maria was there. She's like, I could be whoever you want me to be, baby. I could be whatever you want. And James is like, nah, I need to move on
And like this
somehow.
cutscene is different depending on what ending you're getting. You can actually tell if you've gotten the Maria ending or not because Mary will or slash Maria will be on that little bed.
Hmm.
But if you have the leave or the in water ending, she's by the window. So I came up here and I was like, "Yep, I'm getting the leave ending. Whoops, game over." I got like the one I didn't want, and it wasn't true. I was super stoked. I got the in water ending. It turned out, but uh, yeah, they did a great job with this fight. They like made the it's a lot more engaging. It has
Yes.
your good old boss phases as you do in a modern game. It's difficult, interesting patterns on this boss. I
Yeah,
died. This is the
there's
only place I died in this game is during this fight. I died 4 times during this.
oh wow. I only I died in other spots, but not in this fight because I just had too many healing items by this point.
Eddie really cleaned me out of healing items in a big
Ah,
way. Like I went into this fight with I think 3 syringes and 6 health drinks.
okay. I think I had 8 and 8 for this
That's a
fight.
lot. That's not a lot. I went through this game with like 28 health drinks like the entire time until Eddie
Oh
happened
wow.
to me.
That's nuts. Yeah, so like this fight's it's much better than the original game. Like they're summoning the like bugs that come after you are still there. She still teleports around. She'll still attack you when you're close, but um like you said, after the first phase of the fight, she knocks you down into the hotel again. It gets dark. She kind of behaves like the lip monsters.
The flesh
Um
lips, yeah.
yeah, the flesh lip, she's running around in the ceiling, skittering around at you. So you have to kind of dodge her. Then you go, she breaks I guess it's the hospital or whatever abstract space you're in, the
Mm.
hotel. I don't know where you're supposed to be. She breaks the ceiling again. And so you're outside again. And then at that point, she's teleporting around. She's much faster. She's got multiple swings before her attacks end.
She does the flesh lips thing where the cage kind of turns into like spider legs that are
Yeah.
more
Yep.
mobile and more dangerous and have bigger reach, and it's like, oh boy. I like that they more obviously like drew a just like similarity between the flesh lips fight and the Mary fight because they were supposed to be similar to begin with, obviously, but it's like, oh, they upgraded this one, therefore they're upgrading Mary as well, so that rules, so that's good.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really cool way to interpret fighting a person on a hospital bed. Like that's ultimately what it's trying to evoke. And they make it wrong in a number of ways. The person's upside down, they're floating, like all this stuff. But yeah, they give you spider hospital bed, and man, I guess it's a little like the Silent Hill movie in a way. Like the very end
Oh
of
yeah.
where Alessa shows up in the hospital bed and starts
Well,
attacking people.
I assume they got that from Silent Hill 2, the original,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, 100%. But I like that
Visually, yeah.
visually that they go with the spider metaphor and kind of
Mm.
or I guess it's not fully a spider, but the skittering legs visual
Mm.
metaphor and the like. I don't know what is the like spine thing that whips at you. There's something that's whipping at you like a tail.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
some sort of like weird appendage, and she
yeah,
had that in the original as well. And she could choke you out with it,
yeah,
and
it's
like
it's cool.
Pyramid Head also had that in the original. I don't know if he still has that tongue in this. I didn't see it during my playthrough.
I didn't notice it. But yeah, I
He
really
never
enjoyed this
grabbed
fight.
me though.
Yeah, same. I enjoyed this fight. I thought it was improved. Like, is it the best boss fight I've ever played? No. but like the original game's final boss was kind of a bummer, I think.
None of the bosses in Silent Hill games are what I would consider to be fun or good. Like,
Mhm.
they just kind of are there, and a lot of them are tedious. It's hard to have a fun boss fight in a non-action survival horror game.
Mhm.
Like you'll have fun bosses in like Resident Evil and stuff like that. Um, but Silent Hill, it's like it's not as action oriented, so it's harder to have what would be called a good time in a boss fight. And with the, change of combat in this game comes the improved ability to have what could be called fun with a boss fight.
Yes.
This is definitely more engaging of a boss
Oh,
fight.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that it's a across the board improvement on the original game, and
yeah.
I think that it benefits from the gameplay improvements, it benefits from the design improvements over the years, and then you get your ending after winning this fight. Did we all get in water?
I don't know which one's which, but like I left with Laura.
You got leave.
Oh, you got
Oh,
leave. Good for you.
Ah, the
I
good
got
boy
in
I
ending.
water.
I can guarantee I did nothing to achieve that. Whatever happened such that I got that one was purely coincidence.
Well,
So
you
leave
probably
is
kept yourself very well healed. You probably avoided killing every monster you saw, perhaps. I'm not sure exactly what other triggers lead to the modern versions of this. I was really certain I was on track for the leave ending because I was keeping myself at full health for as much as I could during the game. I don't like walking around a video game with my health in the red or orange if I can help it. Um, because that was like the main thing that weighted you toward the leave ending in the original, which is why it was kind of the most absolutely the most common ending to get on your first playthrough. And the other endings you kind of had to either play a bit oddly, like you kind of didn't care if you died, like protagonist wise, or you had to kind of like purposefully force it a bit to happen. There was just there was a scant few triggers for it, like looking at Angela's knife, and like the amount of time you hang out with Maria, which is nebulous as well, whether or not you try to check on her, um, things of that nature. Um, and I think this version of the game has a lot more triggers that are weighted in way more equal ways, so that you are not like nearly guaranteed to get the leave ending on your first playthrough. I was really chuffed that I didn't get it.
yeah, it might just be that like killing and fighting more skews it more than it did in the previous game. I don't know. We'll find out. Someone will figure out what the triggers are and the weights are.
There is also like stuff like I really think like killing those defunct enemies, I think that definitely does something to your ending. I think that the whether you use the rotten apple or the nice apple for that mirror puzzle in in the hotel, I think that probably matters. You've also got the scarlet egg door and the rusty egg door, which is like I think the scarlet egg is more Maria coded and the rusty one is Mary coded, so like depressing. There's also whether or not you listen to the entire hallway conversation on the way to the final boss fight, where you're
Right.
hearing Mary being like, "I don't want any damn flowers. Just go. I'm a monster. I look like a monster." You can leave during that uh, monologue, and like that does not contribute to. If you listen to the whole thing, it's depressing, so it contributes to the in water ending. Like little things like that are almost certainly still going on here. I don't know what else triggers are going on though. I'm interested to find out.
And I wonder if Pete, if you were not spending as much time in the spaces and you were moving through faster, I wonder if just playtime straight up.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, based on my fear, it could have been. Yeah.
What was
um,
everyone's final time? Mine was like 27 hours.
mine was about 17 or 18.
Oh, I honestly don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I fucking poured over this game. I looked at every nook and cranny of this game.
Yeah,
I was
it's
in this
really
game
good.
like I was in a fucking art museum, just like really taking my time.
And I thought I was taking my time with the 17, 18, but yeah, that's why you're the internet's foremost expert in Silent
Allegedly,
Hill.
yeah.
Allegedly.
But yeah, this is the game's really good. I mean, the in water ending is still depressing as hell.
Oh, love it.
The leave ending, do you still get the letter read?
Yes.
Okay. Because in
All of
the
them read
in-water
the
ending,
letter.
okay, in water, the letter is falling to the bottom of the lake where James is. Leave, you just leave with Laura and that's it?
Pretty much, yeah. You read the letter. There's like some flashes to like locations around like town, and
Oh,
then you guys bounce.
interesting. The original endings were very like static camera
Mm-hmm.
cutscenes where not much is happening. Like the leave ending was just like kind of a overhead shot of the cemetery and like Laura and James walking through and leaving town. And the lowest budget one was in water because it was just total blackness with James saying like I can't go on without you, Mary. Forgive me or whatever. And then you hear him like careening in his car into the lake and splash, and then it just has like blue, like a blue background of under the lake, and the letter plays over that. Like very, very low budget. So I was really expecting, and I was right, that they would turn these into more full-fledged cutscenes with the actors in them doing stuff. So that was great. I was really excited. I loved the in water ending because James is in the car talking to himself. No, he's talking to Mary's corpse in the back seat. He's like
Yeah.
looking in the rearview mirror and he's clearly talking to like a body back there, and like
Mm-hmm.
which confirms a long held fan theory that she is in the back seat of the car the entire time from the start of the game until the end of the game. Confirmed by Masahiro Ito that she's back there. He confirmed that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think that additional really cool in that the additional context is provided, right? Like
Love it.
it confirms you don't need to interview Masahiro Ito to get the answer. It's just
Mhm.
it's in the text now in a
Stop bothering
pretty
this
clear
man on
way.
Twitter.
Yes. Just
Bother him on Blue Sky. He's on Blue Sky now.
let him draw his creepy monsters and stop sending him DMs about this.
Let him draw his horrifying porn and leave him alone.
Yeah, this game's good. We'll need to see. I have not seen the Maria ending. I haven't watched like a roll call of all the endings yet. I'm sure that
Nope.
people are getting the dog ending and the uh the resurrection ending and rebirth ending. Like we'll
And
see. We'll see if there are new ones.
There's two new ones.
Ooh,
Because it said like I got ending 1 of 8.
oh, that's
And it said,
true, right?
there's 3 main endings. There's the UFO ending, the dog ending, and rebirth. And then there must be one more, actually. No, wait, 2 more. Yeah.
Did you see
counting
that?
weird.
Did you see what the deal was with all the pictures?
I did, yeah. I thought it was going to be more of like an ARG, but it was just like a group puzzle that was hard to solve, but you could solve by yourself if you really put your mind to it. But I don't know. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, Pete, what do you think was going on with the pictures? Let's start there because I don't think know.
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I assumed it was something that was involved in the game, but I saw them. I was like, I don't know what this is. There's a number on the back. Probably won't come up, and then stopped immediately.
Okay, so it turns out that if you, and this is spoiler, I mean spoilers for like a a cool thing. It's not like gameplay relevant necessarily.
Yeah.
So
Something that's hard to do anyway by
yeah,
yourself.
each of the pictures has a caption and then a number on the back. If you took the caption, and then looked at the number, you went to that number letter in the caption, and then you assemble them. I think in order, right, Jess?
So
I think that
I
was
heard that the number on the back is the order that you
okay.
assemble them in, and each photo has a certain number of something in it, like
Right.
6 open windows on the face of this building or something like that, and you go to like the 6th letter in the caption and you use that, and they're in the order that they are listed on the back, and it spells
Okay.
out you've been here for 20 years. Was it?
Yeah, something like that. It's basically James has been trapped here since the original game. Like he's just been looping.
I've
And
been trapped here for since the original game. It applies to the fans too, which is really cute.
Yeah, and I mean, it also gives that context because, like, when you said when you go to Jess, when you go to the hotel, like, hey, someone's already revealed the main puzzle. What's up with that? Or like, hey, when you go into the room where James is watching the VHS tape, all of the drawers have already been opened, and there's
Yeah.
footprints
The
in the floor,
carpet.
in the carpet,
Oh,
because someone's already walked in here,
a
and so
lot.
a lot. Yeah, so like you've got all of this evidence that James is in a loop in some way. And I think it's cool to have that like clarified, but in like a really obscure puzzle, right? Like, so
Mhm,
you can still do fan theory things, and then hey, if you solve this really obscure puzzle, you can get the authorial note. Yeah, you were right.
mhm. And
Way
like
to
that's
go.
been like the implication of the Maria ending
Mhm.
since the beginning of all of this, because the Maria ending is you leave town with Maria and she like ominously has a cough, and James is like, "You better do something about that cough," like implying that he's just gonna kill her again. He's gonna come back. Like he's gonna do this over and over and over again until something breaks or he gets it right. you know, leave or
Mhm.
in water happens eventually. So it's nice to see it more integrated with the rest of the game, like the hints here and there that like he's done this before. There's like a deja vu thing happening here. A bunch of characters also well, mostly Maria comments over the game about how like this isn't how she remembered it, and even Angela says this place isn't how I remembered it, and it's like that's a note to the fans like, yeah, we're changing things a little bit. Like really cute meta stuff happening.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I really do appreciate that they've made some of those like those things that were known by fans for a long time into things that were much more parsable in the original text without having to deep dive. Like even the recording you get on the way to in the ruined hotel, and it's like a doctor recording saying like, this woman suffered, she died, it came, all the treatments, it came to nothing, but I hope you'll learn something, or like I hope you'll grasp something from this. And it's very clearly talking to James. Like, hey, your wife is dead. Are you going to learn from this? Is there going to be growth here, or are we going to be stuck here doing this forever?
So cool.
Yeah. So any closing thoughts on Silent Hill 2?
Damn, they did it. I'll be
They
damned.
did. They didn't
What the
bloob it.
fuck?
They
They didn't
hardly
bloob
bloobed
it
it
up.
at all.
Wow, they're turning bloob into a positive verb.
And they, again, like from what we said in the first one, this is their first game with combat, and it's good combat.
Insane.
They
Insane.
improved all of the fights.
This game is a fucking miracle. How the fuck did they do this?
Who knows?
Wow.
Way to go, Bloober team. You get this kudo. Do
Oh
not
my
waste it.
god. You have to hand it to them. You have to. There's no choice but to hand it to them. I cannot believe they pulled it off. I've never been more stoked to be dead fucking wrong about something. I am over the moon about this.
Yeah. So next time we record, we will be discussing Mass Effect Andromeda. So that
Good
is the
luck.
next game. What a swing, huh? What a swing from a beloved franchise redone right to a beloved franchise killed in its bed. Speaking of murdering someone in their bed with a pillow,
Aw.
Mass Effect Andromeda coming up next. Jess, any plugs, anything you want to plug before we go?
Yeah, just follow me on Blue Sky and YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff, and
Skull
please
Tenders.
please consider listening to my podcast Skull Tenders. It's D&D but good and funny. I swear. I promise.
And thank you, Pete.
Yep. Wish I could say I'm as excited for the next one, but I'm not.
And thank you, dear listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter for now. deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And you can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Till next time, peace.